military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Fear itself. Fear itself. Fear itself. Where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
The fight is growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
My prepper brothers and sisters, you've arrived at the bunker. Grab a cup of joe, a stout tea, or maybe your favorite adult beverage. This is the prepper's place for open discussion on whatever the hell we want. Brought to you whatever the hell way we want. This is the new format of Top's Bunker. So sit down, kick back, post up, relax, and welcome to the bunker.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Military-industrial complex.
And we as a people will get to the promised land.
We will make America strong again, proud again, safe again. We will make America great again.
Preppers, survivalists, off-gridders, homesteaders, and the like. Welcome to Top's Bunker, a podcast for preppers. Leave a voicemail to get on the show, speakpipe.com/tops, or use the live message option on our Facebook group, Top's Bunker. Email us at shtf@topsbunker.com. Visit our site, topsbunker.com. I want to thank y'all for joining us. We got a great show for you tonight. Tonight, we'll do a little post-election banter on what happened and what's to come. It was a true red wave that spread across our country last week when former President Donald Trump won the United States presidential election with a huge landslide upset that has taken the left by surprise. Jeremy, Buddy, and myself will toss around what we think is to come and discuss the inner workings of our government with Oklahoma State Legislator Jay Steagall. Currently, Jay serves in the Oklahoma House of Representatives as the chairman of the State Powers Committee and House co-chairman of the Legislative Veterans Caucus. He was a primary author on the 2019 Constitutional Carry Bill and was the House author of the nation's first and only anti-red flag law. But before we bring Jay and the guys on, let's have a little fun.
I'm f***ing feral today. Feral!
You are going to hell for this.
Y'all are racist because y'all are misogynist.
Convicted felon, rapist, crazy fascist, dictator, psycho.
All women should stop having sex for the next 4 years.
It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go.
This is not okay. This is not okay. This simply will not do. And this is not okay. And I'm not good with this. This is sick. No!
I dare you to tell me to calm down right now.
So, what's the plan? Do we all just, kill ourselves collectively as a group, just drink some Kool-Aid, mass? What's next for us? What's next?
We don't have to freak out. We don't have to freak out because it's not even real. Because recount the vote!
If you voted for Donald Trump, I will never not know that about you. And that's something we'll both have to live with.
We're just gonna wake up tomorrow morning and everything's gonna go back to the way it'll be a psych. It'll be a really bad dream, and none of this will ever happen, right? It'll be like the first time, and then we're all gonna pull through fine in 4 years. Correct? Please? Someone tell me. You think I would ever even dare bring a child into this country now? Now? No. That's cute. Goodbye.
Stop. Stop.
Damn.
I broke up with my boyfriend last night because he
told me he regrets meeting me because I spoke about how I should have my rights. And then...
I feel absolutely so betrayed. If you are happy about the results of the election, do not talk to me. I don't care if I've known you for years. I do not want to talk to you ever again. The fact that you would purposefully vote for somebody who wants to take away my rights as a woman, don't ever talk to me again.
Quick question. So does anybody know how to find or hire a hitman or woman? Because we don't want to be sexist.
What is wrong with you? I can't do this anymore. I'm literally sick. I'm literally sick to my stomach. What has happened to America?
I'm going to get drunk today, and I'm going to act like an angry black woman, because I'm angry! I'm mad! I'm upset! I'm angry as bro. I'm angry. I'm hurt. My feelings are hurt. I'm angry as I'm going to get drunk and cause a problem.
All right, y'all, it's only been 2 days since God fired Kamala Harris and re-elected Trump in landslide fashion. And the amount of out-of-touch meltdowns and collapse of common sense has been incredible since then. Folks acting like they're going to leave the country, wives wanting divorces from their husbands, delusional women talking about cutting men off from getting some loving, just pure insanity over an election. Hey, y'all, do what you got to do. Nobody's out here forcing people to be stupid and sleep around other than yourselves. And I'm praying these lost souls wake up out of the wokeness at some point, but in the meantime, I'd be perfectly okay with a mass exodus of all you anti-American Trump haters. Then once he does turn this ship around like he did back in 2016, people seem to forget he's already had experience in this position and did it effectively, but once he does turn it around again, that's all the more for us to enjoy. He's not only going to make America great again, but hopefully mental institutions are part of that as well, and since Big 47 is going to be deporting tons of illegals, while that's going down, let's give CNN, MSDNC, and ABC the boot as well. Amen? Let's get it poppin'.
Trump 2024. Trump 2024.
Where do you guys want to go first on this? Obviously, this is post-election 2024. Trump has won. One thing that I think a lot of Americans don't understand is just because they called him a winner, that doesn't mean he actually has won. Just so we're all on the same page.
Right.
Sorry, I'm trying to do this with my voice here. Just for you, I've had my hands in peppers and pickles and brine. They're definitely not peckers. But
that sounds like a damn fun Friday night. Nothing but brine and peckers.
I did not pick a peck of peppers.
I just spit stuff out my nose, man. That was crazy.
So now that everybody knows the other side of my life, my hands are I can't touch anything because if I touch my eyes, they start burning. My nose is all screwed up, so I just took some nose medicine. And those peppers, they get to me. But I've got like 6 jars of different things pickling right now. They are not peckers that are pickling. There are peppers and pickles that are pickling.
It's 2024, man. We don't judge.
Pick a peck of.
Pick a peck up. Yeah, that's a hard one. You can't say that one too fast.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickles.
You guys have already taken yourselves down the pecker pathway.
Anyway, what's actually happening with the election, a lot of people may not know this, and I don't fully understand it either, but just because that the news agencies out there project a winner, that doesn't mean that it's actually official. So what's happening right now, as we speak, you've got officials that are counting ballots. They call this the certification, canvassing and certification stage or something like that. And they have until December 11th to actually finish that. They have to, by law, finish the count by December 11th. It's not just for the presidency, but for all of the candidates. And then the Electoral College meets, because remember, we vote for the Electoral College, not for an actual person. And the Electoral College will meet on the 17th. That's the official date, and they will cast their votes. I believe once they're cast, they send them right to Washington, to Congress, and at that point, we'll meet on January 6th in what they call a joint session of Congress. And they will actually read out loud the votes, and you can watch that. That's all. It'll be publicized. Everything is transparent, so they've got to show all of those things to the public. So we could actually watch that happen. And what they'll do is they'll stand up there and they'll count every single vote, and then they'll hit the gavel and they'll say who the actual president is. And of course, inauguration day is on the 20th of January. So we've got about 3 months before President Trump becomes the president. And I feel that they, and when I say they, I don't mean the Democrats, but there's this group out there or several groups out there or many different people out there, the powers that be. I believe that between now and then, they're going to try to do everything they can to keep him out of office. Everything and not even shy of killing him. I think that's on the table.
I would agree.
I hate to say it, but I think he's in danger. I think his family is in danger. His kids are in danger. A lot of things could happen between now and then.
Well, and Jamie Raskins already has a plan that they've worked on for months.
Who's Jamie Raskin?
Yeah, he's a Democrat from Maryland. He's a ranking member, actually, of the House Oversight Committee. And he was the guy pushing the January 6th committee member. He was pushing a lot of the January 6th stuff against Trump. And he's basically said that he's pushing not to certify a Trump victory.
There's some states that I'll never understand, like Virginia. Virginia, of all places, full of just rednecks and good old boys, is a blue state. That makes no sense. That just makes no sense to me.
The suburbs of D.C. are out there, so
that's and
there's agency people out there that
yeah,
alphabet dwellers that.
Well, the alphabet boys, the alphabet boys have to do what they're told. They like those contracts, but D.C. itself was like, oh my gosh, it was like 90-something% for her. And Maryland was overwhelmingly for her. Delaware, very much for her. Most of the Northeast, but strangely enough, even in New York, it was a 10-point race. Trump had 44.19% of the count, and Harris had 55.81. It was actually within a 10-point, which that's a big number, but for New York, that's pretty interesting.
It is interesting.
Being a former New Yorker, man, I'm what I saw out of New York, I follow it pretty, even the local politics there because, I did live there quite some time, I guess. And honestly, man, they should be scared.
New York impressed me. I see that Jay's up on is on here. Do you want to introduce him?
Hey, guys.
Hey, how you doing, Jay?
Hey.
I'm still setting up. I mean, I'm here, but
while he's doing that, in AP News, it reads just minorly different. According to AP, it's the U.S. House is 210 to 198, and the Senate is 53 to 45. I think it's like a 1 or 2 number difference. And of course, Arizona and Nevada still failing to have completed their stuff. Those are very low numbers to be reporting in for Arizona. I don't know why.
This is why I'm scratching my head about Arizona and Nevada. They don't have that many. It's not like it's Florida where there's millions of people living there. They have a lower population rate. What kindergarten class do they have counting these ballots? How long does it take to count?
They're still using Dominion.
Yeah.
I can't believe that we allow Dominion in this country.
After the research I did on Dominion and Smartmatic, it was for the steal. I mean, they're set up to steal elections. I mean, bottom line up front.
I was impressed with Oklahoma. Didn't your state come in the highest?
They went completely red in every county.
Right.
That's normal for us, though. We don't play that game.
It is, and coming from Texas, it's usually very conservative. But many years ago, it's very, very conservative. But I tell you, it's getting closer and closer to the blue side down in Texas. And I don't know what's going on there.
Austin, it's all the transplants.
Yeah, it's a Red Hot Chili Pepper song, Californication.
That's literally it. So I'm looking at the county maps right now for the presidential election. And in the entire state of Texas, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 counties that were actually blue. The rest of the map is red. literally the rest of the map. And right where you would expect all of those to be is exactly where they are. Dallas, Austin, my hometown of San Antonio, unfortunately. Down by Brownsville, which is right by the border.
Is that also Houston?
Yeah, definitely.
It's surprising, man. Surprising to me. Wow.
I mean, but when you go back to the overall state count with 99% reported in, Trump won the state 56.26 to 42.41. So that 42.41% literally came from like 12 counties.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So, Jay, how did you do? Aren't you part of the legislature?
I am. So I'm in House District 43, which is basically the Yukon area over here on the west side of Oklahoma City. Yukon itself is kind of a suburb of western Oklahoma City. And coincidentally, we're completely surrounded by the city of Oklahoma City. But the area I represent is roughly 14 square miles or so. We're really compact, and each of our House reps represent roughly 39 to 40,000 people. There's 101 representatives in our state legislature and 48 senators.
I've always wondered, how do you connect with your constituents, the people that you're supposed to be listening to? How do you connect with those folks?
There's multiple ways for us to do that. Of course, I've got a full-time legislative assistant that works at the Capitol all year round. And she's an absolute rock star. So she handles actually most of the telephone calls that come in, most of the emails, most of the calls and emails that come in from our constituents or administrative in nature. The things that need my attention, she'll call me or text me and say, "Hey, this one here is pretty important. You need to handle this," or she'll forward the email over to me and let me know. So we've got that mechanism. But then also something I do, and I know a lot of other reps around here do, is I'll pass my personal cell phone number out to anybody that wants it. If you're one of my constituents and you're trying to get a hold of me, the last thing I want is for that to be difficult. And so I have absolutely no issue giving my cell phone out, and they'll call me or text me directly. I welcome that. I've even left my phone number on Post-it notes on people's doors as we're out door knocking. I want to be accessible to the people that I work for. I mean, they are paying my paycheck.
Well, I hear on the news and on different shows and just all the time, I hear, call your state representatives, call your this, call your that. And I'm thinking to myself, why would any governor pick up the phone for little old me? So is the process me getting in touch with folks like you and then you getting in touch with folks like them, or how exactly does that work?
Yeah, in a lot of instances, that's a really good route to take. I would caution you against saying little o you or little o me. I like to say that I have an office at the Capitol, but it's not my office. That office belongs to the folks that live here in House District 43. So when they come up to the office, I'll let them sit in the chair behind the desk because it really belongs to them. And that's the truth of the matter. I'm just there, to do their work. But if someone needs to get a hold of the governor, I know our governor's office is very proactive in taking phone calls and getting back to people, even through email. It's difficult to get back to everybody in a timely manner, but I know that they have a staff, even within that office, that works very hard to provide that constituent outreach and response. But if one of my constituents gets an answer that they don't like from the governor's office and I hear about it, that gives me an opportunity to kind of serve as a liaison or find out additional information that's going on. And maybe it's something that I can help them with that they didn't need the governor's help with to begin with. But obviously, if things need to be elevated, that's kind of what I'm there to do, help my constituents solve the everyday problems that they deal with, if it's something that's within the purview of their state government.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff, man. It really is.
And I'm glad you said that about the constituency basically being, and I, for lack of a better term, the owners of that office. I can remember it was, I feel like it was just a few years ago, or maybe within the past 2 years, the White House, which is the people's house, they put a stop to all tours and all these different things, even during a time when there was no major need to stop it. And there were several Congress members and the Senate who said, hey, this is not our house. This is not your house. This is their house. They have the right. They actually have a right to be here. And they were not allowing any of that stuff to happen. I remember that.
You know, I listened to a story here recently about how the Secret Service actually came about. You know, President Lincoln had the papers on his desk to sign, which would have formed the Secret Service at that time, and they were still on his desk, you know, right after his assassination. And the reason there was a push even for the Secret Service at that time, I mean, beyond the obvious, is that constituents, anyone really, could straight up walk into the White House and request a meeting with the president. It wasn't gated off. I mean, it was pretty easy access, and that changed after the turn of the century there. And then Congress obviously stood up the Secret Service itself. But it's interesting how access to our elected officials has changed over time. But I encourage people, all, you know, here at home to get a hold of me if they need anything. And I'll tell you what's really fun is they'll call and leave a message, or they'll reach out by email. And sometimes it's easier for me just to pick up the phone and call them and respond to their question or give them an explanation, you know, depending on what they're asking for. And most oftentimes they'll say, man, I didn't expect you to call me. I'm like, well,
right, exactly. Yeah.
I'm sorry that hasn't been the case before. but yeah, I mean, I work for you. I'm going to call you, see what I can do to help you. But I travel all over the state giving presentations on our founding documents, and I do that as a service to the public because they need to know what the intent of our system is. But while I'm there, I make sure that they understand what kind of line of communication they have with me should they need me, and what they should expect from their other elected officials. And we should be easy to access. And, you know, we obviously have a lot of work to do while we're in session, and it's even busy while we're out of session, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be accessible.
Do you foresee anything happening, even if it's tinfoil hat kind of an answer, to keep Trump from going in office, Jay?
They've already tried to assassinate him twice. And of course, I'm watching the same speeches that everybody else is, and listening to what the messaging is. I mean, you gotta separate the person from the message in these instances, because that's what we're listening for, is the message itself. Are there any calls for violence, no matter who it's coming from? Those types of things. So I haven't heard anything that would give me, reason to believe that there's a quote unquote smoking gun here to tie the messaging thus far to a call for action or a violence of any sort. But that doesn't mean that lone wolves aren't out there, like what we've seen in the past few months of people who are not real happy with the president-elect, and certainly may try to make another run at taking his life. I hope that's not the case. The seat of the president is not designed to have an effect on the everyday lives of the individual. They really can't take any real action without congressional assistance anyway, through legislation.
Well, no, and the eyes of the country right now are all over the Secret Service. So I'm assuming, hoping that they are bolstering their ranks and putting more people on the president and his family, because they're all in danger, if you ask me. I would feel really good, because I'm a Trump supporter. I would feel really, really good if he did not go out in public and did this kind of stuff he's been doing over the past year or so. I hope they keep him protected.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. There's not any real need for him to campaign at this point. I think between now and the time the Electoral College votes are actually certified by the Senate, would be a good time for him to not necessarily sit back and relax, because that's not who Trump is. But there's no reason for him to be as visible in the public as
exposed.
He has been out. Yep, exactly. As he has been, on the campaign trail. So I think that's probably good sound advice for anybody that's in that position. Get your house in order. Take this time to get your affairs lined up so that when you are seated into that position, you can focus on the job without having to worry about any of these external factors that you've had some time to get squared away. But we know what's going to happen between now and then. There's intel briefings that got to happen for the incoming president, just like there would be for anybody else. There's meetings that have to happen, but I hope, and you're right, with the bolstering of Secret Service agents around him now, hopefully that will provide him the security that he and his family need over the next, little bit at least, because we know he's going to be surrounded by plenty of agents once he's actually seated and protected that way. And then the other thing that we need to remember here is that hopefully he reciprocates what he is getting to the outgoing president. President Biden deserves and needs that same type of protection around him. No matter where we fall on the political spectrum, we have to understand that those elected officials have been read in on a lot of information that's sensitive to the security of our nation. And we don't want that information falling in the wrong hands. And we certainly don't want anybody taking any pot shots at our past presidents, no matter who they are, because it sets a very bad precedent and exposes any kind of weaknesses that we have in our own security measures, and we certainly don't need that. So I'd like to make sure that President Biden is well protected after he leaves office as well.
I sincerely hope President Trump goes through and really, really looks at every single 3 and 4 letter agency and really starts looking at their allegiance, where they lie within the needs of the people and the Constitution that they swore an oath to, versus what's been happening. And for those of us who do know, and you mentioned read-ons, for those of us who do know, if you look at it from that particular angle, it's so obvious throughout these past 4 years, and even before that, during his presidency, a lot of the things that were happening. When you look at it and you look at the obvious nature of certain things, and you know the people that you know within the government, you can look at it and be like, yeah, I can see it. I can see it. From a mile away, I can see it. But people will not accept the fact that there's a huge potential that our agencies have been turned inward against their own people. I just hope that he goes through and really, really looks at that.
Well, you bring up a really good point, and I think that's something that he's going to be scrutinizing very heavily. We've been watching his interviews over the past few months, and he's obviously learned some lessons from his first 4 years as far as who he can trust. He's got the purview of appointing, thousands of people into key positions, including these agencies that you're talking about. And whether those were the right decisions or not, at this point, is kind of irrelevant. What has happened over the last 4 years, as we've all seen, is a different usage of these agencies. They've been armed to actually work against Americans, including a former president. So I think what President-elect Trump should do when he takes office, like you said, is take a very strong look at who he's got in those positions, and not just clean house, not just let people go. But now is the time to start putting people in jail who have acted against the American people. I don't think that's outside of what really needs to happen. But we really need to understand here what has happened over the last 4 years as far as how this current administration has utilized those agencies against the American people. Trump was the target in most of these incidents, but that could have just as easily been you or me. I mean, look what they did to the January 6th folks. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And when we go back to, the discussion of, do these buildings belong to the people that are inside them, or do they belong to the taxpayers? It is making your way into a publicly owned building really an act of insurrection? Who's the insurrectionists here? And I think the history books will reflect who that really is, depending on who wins this battle over the next 4 years. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Hey, Jay, I got a question for you. Do you think the lawfare will continue even before he gets certified? Or do you think it'll just all go away?
Are you asking about any kind of attempt to sentence, or?
Yeah.
I missed the first part, buddy.
Oh, okay. The lawfare against President-elect Trump. Do you think it'll actually go away, or do you think they'll postpone it, or do you think they'll go ahead and go full steam before he gets elected?
I'm not sure what they're going to do, and that's a really valid question. We could see it go a couple of different directions. They could drop it altogether out of precedent for of not prosecuting sitting presidents or even president-elects, or they could postpone it for the same reason. We'll just have to see.
Well, I can tell you that today, Trump's attorney, Mike Davis, said in an interview to New York Attorney General Letitia James, "I dare you to continue your lawfare against President Trump. Listen here, sweetheart, we will put your fat ass in prison." That's a direct quote from Trump's attorney to the AG who has been trying desperately to take him down.
The one who ran on, "I'm going to take down Trump"?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And then said that she didn't have that in her mind. Yeah.
Yeah, well, her and, that wasn't on my mind when I did this. Her and both the governor both had a press conference today, and they both came out and pretty much said, "We're going after you, Trump, and you're not going to do anything to stop us, and you can't, and here it comes." And it's a spicy interview, so I would say everybody needs to go and check it out.
Well, it's amazing to me that that people would run around saying that he hates women or all this other stuff, when the most important person in his life that's not family is his lawyer, who's a woman.
Yeah. When I sat down to start watching everything, in the back of my mind, I thought, even if this goes well and he does win, they're gonna do every single thing humanly possible to delegitimize his victory and find a way to disqualify him from taking the seat. They're gonna try desperately to find a way.
Well, I thought that, I know Jay said he hadn't heard anything yet, but the vice president's speech, I heard a few things in there and I can't recall them. That sounded to me like she was asking people to not put up with it, to not stop fighting, like to do something. That's what it sounded like to me. I don't know.
Sure,
Buddy, what were you? No, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I can see, where someone could get to that conclusion for sure. And it may have been in there. It didn't necessarily come across as pointed to me, but I can certainly see how someone could perceive that.
It was well written, don't get me wrong, but I think that some people out there might take her as saying, "Hey, she's telling us to act."
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what's interesting, and Buddy and I have talked about this offline in other conversations. But as we listen to what the left is putting out and has put out over the last 24 to 36 hours now, they're basically blaming the voting base for the election turnout. Now, of course, voters are always responsible for how an election turns out, but they were blaming uneducated garbage, right? Uneducated women, weak women, for the turnout at the polls and ultimately the election results.
I heard white women. I heard them blame white women.
Yeah.
on some of the stations.
Now let's go back.
And Rhonda was sitting right next to me, my wife, Jay, and she was pissed when she heard them say that. She wanted to call somebody. She was mad.
Yeah, absolutely. And Monday, that campaign, the Kamala campaign, was putting out messages, and had been for quite some time, that she's going to be the person that unites everyone. Everyone's opinions matter and need to be heard. Unless you scream out Jesus is Lord, then obviously you're at the wrong rally. But and then Mark Cuban comes in and says, Trump never hangs out with intelligent women, never, which was a really stupid thing to say. And I sure wouldn't have put that out or not responded to it if I was the Harris campaign. I wouldn't have let that go. There were several missteps, if we want to just call it that that campaign took or let happen, that really kind of chastised the voting base that they were trying to get support from just a few days ago. And it's really kind of crazy how they come out for weeks and say, we love you all. We don't care who you vote for. I'm going to work for you, if I'm president. And then the minute that she doesn't win the election, she does two things. She abandons her own base at her own watch party. And then she says, well, screw the rest of you too, with all the messaging that goes out the very next day. I'm like, well,
I couldn't believe that either. I really couldn't.
Are you really in this for the American people, or are you in this for yourself? Because that's what a narcissist does.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly how it comes across. And, I feel, because as a patriot, I feel for all of Americans, including the Democrats that are out there, who they did not listen to. They pandered to the woke side as much as they possibly could. They really did. And they didn't listen to their core base of actual Americans who happen to be Democrats. Didn't listen to them on what they were actually needing to be said and done. And they pandered to this woke crowd. And at the very end, when it was all said and done, she couldn't even come out on stage in front of her woke crowd and talk to them and say, I'm sorry that we lost. Poor sportsmanship. Just, I don't know. This shows why she should not be the president of the United States.
And that's exactly right. When you abandon your own base because things don't turn out the way that you want it to, it doesn't speak very well of your character.
Yeah.
Well, those people were there to support her one way or the other, and she just abandoned them.
Basically, I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Yeah.
Now, buddy, you were talking about something the other day when we had a meeting yesterday. You were saying something about some Democrat rallies or something that's coming up. What was that all about?
Okay, there's different socialist factions out there that have been basically they came out ahead of time, and it's been months and months in the planning. They decided they were going to have rallies after the election, so the 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th, throughout the weekend of the election weekend.
So what end? What's the point?
Well, and after digging deep into it, they basically wargamed either they were going to have a rally regardless who won, whether it was Harris or Trump. And so reading their own propaganda, and I'll just call it what it is, reading their own propaganda, they call out Harris for basically being pro-Israel, and they call out Trump and white Christian nationalists for being bigots and anti-abortion, anti-LGBTQ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the queer nation, and things like that. So they basically, you can read between the lines, in my opinion. They're using this election, no matter who won, to stir up their own base. And they're trying to join forces with, these are the Democratic Socialists, okay? So they're trying to join forces with Stop Cop City, Antifa, BLM, and a couple other, pro-Palestinian movement. a lot of the social, programs out there to stir up the pot and no matter who won to stir up chaos into, our society. And something that you saw in 2016 and 2020. And it's nothing more than just going out to cause disruption into our normal lives and hopefully, gain power out of it. I mean,
are there anybody expecting these things to go violent?
The few that's happened, they had one last night in Chicago, and I believe there was one in Portland. And the cops are prepared, believe it or not. And they're going in and they're not allowing it to happen. They're giving them their space to do what they do, to protest or to have a peaceful assembly. As soon as they are going in and doing anything that breaks the law, they're hemming them up quickly. And I think anybody that watched the pro-Palestinian movement at the end of the school year last year, May and April, and into June, throughout the campuses across the United States, you saw the police weren't playing, especially New York Police Department came into, I think it might have been Cornell. They went in and just busted it all up. At a certain point, they're like, okay, we've had enough. The pro-Palestinian movement or whoever they were barricaded themselves in a library, and they went in and busted windows, went in and yanked them out by their hair, and they have no agenda. They have, they say, oh, we want to divest from the Israeli companies out there. We want you to do this, we want you to do that. They have these demands, but they really don't mean anything. Their actual agenda is to cause chaos to our society so they can come in and try to take over power. I mean,
we see any of that kind of stuff go on, like that happened years back. Jeremy likes to call it the summer of love. If we see any of that kind of thing happening during Trump's term, he doesn't really have the power to go into a state to go in and stop something like that. He did make a few claims where he said, I'll go in there and stop it right now. What kind of power does he have?
He has the power of posse comitatus. Posse comitatus really does involve the National Guard, but the president does have the ability to federalize the National Guard in order to assist local law enforcement. Currently, without posse comitatus, the National Guard does not have arrest or detainment authority, but under posse comitatus, they actually would have the ability to do so.
I thought posse comitatus was the federal government not being allowed to step in against the U.S. public.
No, posse comitatus grants that authorities. And when you start thinking about military stuff and how to stop certain things like that, it's all about what we call authorities and titling. For instance, right now, the National Guard mission that's going on out in Western North Carolina, they're under Title 32, which is a state order, a state-driven funding. Title 10 is federal orders, federal funding for the military. So when it comes to that kind of thing, you have to think back, for instance, way back, and I would believe this was 1960. I can't remember when. A young black girl was allowed to attend a normally white school, and it came down to the president telling the 101st, you're going to go down there and you're going to stand in front of that school and you're going to allow that little girl to go to school. So he does have the ability to do quite a bit when it does come to the military, because he is the commander in chief.
So without the request of a governor, he can go in and handle things.
No, he can't. He can't activate a National Guard without the governor's approval.
He can't.
No.
The governor has to activate it, but the president can federalize them.
He can federalize them on Title 10 orders through the governor's office. Of course, the only reason I say it that way is the National Guard is a state-owned asset. Do we wear the same uniform? Absolutely. Do we deploy under Title 10 orders, like Jeremy's saying? Yeah, absolutely. 19 years of my military service were in the Guard, and I've deployed 9 times altogether. 6 of those deployments, 7 of those deployments were with the Guard. The thing when the Guard actually deploys, they deploy as an attachment to an active duty unit. They never deploy just as a guard unit themselves. The actions within the confines of the United States when it comes to the activation of the militia, though, really falls under the purview of Congress in Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution. Now, with that activation by Congress, which is through legislation, the commander-in-chief, because this would be a federal activation, would be the president, and that is found in Article 2, Section 2. So when we tie all of this together, what we really see is a joint effort between the federal government and a given state or a group of given states to activate state-owned assets, which are prescribed actually in the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. There's where we find that the National Guard belongs to the states. And so this combined effort between the federal government and the states in order to suppress insurrection. That's what this would be. So if we see these groups start causing too much trouble, then both the Congress, the president, and the given governors of the affected states would all have to be in agreement here to activate a National Guard unit. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen, which could make things really interesting. A governor always has the prerogative to say no to federal activation, but it's only because those assets belong to the states, and that's not only given in the U.S. Constitution, but we pass a law every other year called the.
So what if a crowd that was rowdy and was doing what we saw, burning things down and causing real damage that could cause death, that's dangerous. What if they did that to a federal building? Do they still have to go through the government or the governor?
Well, I don't know that the time or place is as important as understanding who the assets actually belong to. So if we're talking about activating the National Guard because anything in the state was affected, then the governor would still have to approve that.
I see.
The federal government doesn't own the National Guard.
I see what you're saying. Right. Okay.
Active duty and reserves, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but not the National Guard.
So so I was confused. The reserves are not the National Guard. That's two different entities. Okay.
Two different
That's correct. Yeah, and just to provide your listeners a little bit of clarification, the National Guard is a reserve component.
Right.
But that is separate than the entity of the reserve.
Okay.
I think we should probably move into the what now.
I had heard Gavin Newsom, he's pledging to resist the Trump administration, something about calling for a special session of the California Legislator. And this is a quote, to quote, safeguard California residents' values in the face of an incoming Trump administration to bolster California resources to protect civil rights, reproductive freedoms, climate actions, and immigrant families.
Why is California still a thing?
What he's saying is bolster resources. So in other words, so that they won't have to get resources from the federal government so that they can say no to the federal government when it comes to these things.
Here's what's happened today. There's been there's a coalition building, and Newsom and in a city, a mayor of the blue cities. They said they're not going to comply with Trump and his deportation. They're going to go back to having these sanctuary cities. And even Letitia James said today that they're not going to allow Trump to use to weaponize the federal government and the federal government's monies against them. So they're trying to shore all this up, and they had pre-planned, that as a possible action against Trump because he'd used it before.
Well, the way I see it is Trump saying he's going to deport. I totally agree 100%. They shouldn't be in our country illegally, so get them out. But how does he deport people from a sanctuary city unless he's able to declare that not a sanctuary city? But if it's a state issue, how can he do that?
He said many times at Madison Square Garden, he mentioned that he was going to deport, he's going to use federal assets to deport and the military, including the National Guard, to deport these illegal illegal aliens, illegals, whatever you want to call them.
But
Yes.
if they're in sanctuary cities, then you can't deport them. That's the whole point of a sanctuary city.
Well,
This might be one for Jay.
currently, we're about to do a shuffle on all the committee assignments here in Oklahoma after this election. But currently, I'm the chairman of the State Powers Committee, and I love this argument that folks like Governor Newsom are throwing out there. And to answer your question, what do we do now with this? Because we've got these governors and maybe a few others that are saying we're going to resist the actions of the federal government. Forget that it's Trump. It's just they're saying, we're going to protect our own here. This is an assertion of state powers, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's an assertion of state powers. And some of what Gavin Newsom is asserting here, he's actually going to be on the right side. I would say that most states should actually position themselves so that they're not receiving federal dollars, or that they put themselves in a position where they can control their own purse strings without the need of federal funds. And we got to recognize where those come from and the strings that are attached once a state takes those on. And oftentimes the state actually has to pony up matching funds to receive the federal monies that are being obligated against the same taxpayers.
It's almost a conservative mindset then, if you think about it.
It kind of is. The argument, the premise for the argument may not be something that we agree with, but when you boil it down, the assertion of state powers is actually something that we want to see from states. And I've been pushing for that here in the state of Oklahoma quite a bit, but my actions are based on, or my arguments and subsequent actions are always based on either constitutional law, state law, or applicable federal laws. So I'm trying to bring us back to law and order, the law and order argument, which is ironically one which Kamala Harris was arguing for in her entire campaign. And now we have supporters of hers like Gavin Newsom that think just because they have sanctuary cities that the federal government is hands off as far as who can be here legally and who can't be here legally. There are some provisions in our Constitution that speak to the state's ability to determine who is a legal citizen of their state and who is not. Now, that doesn't make them, let me rephrase that, a legal resident. It doesn't necessarily make them a resident or a citizen in their state, and it surely doesn't make them a citizen of the United States. But by and large, states do have the power to determine who it is that they would like to reside in their state and who they would not prefer.
So they could loophole them in.
Well, not really loopholing. I would say that it's well within their purview to do so. But I think what we need to recognize here is if that's the action that California wants to pursue, if they want to create a sanctuary state for illegal immigrants, they should be able to do so because that's their own state's prerogative. However, those actions should not in any way, shape, form, or fashion affect the other 49 states financially or through a vote, a federal vote of any sort. It should have absolutely no effect on the rest of us. Otherwise, the other 49 states have a legal claim to say we have been harmed by the actions of the state of California in that our vote is disenfranchised, or our tax dollars or our tax burden has now been shifted to the perspective that we're paying for people who are illegally to be here. I'm not harboring these illegals on my tax dollars, in other words. So states would actually be able to make some sort of legal claim and legal argument and would probably win in that sense. Now,
hold on. If a state can proclaim a person to be a legal resident of that state, does that automatically make them a legal resident of the United States?
No, it does not. There are steps to becoming a citizen. And I would like to point out that there's a difference between a resident of a state and a citizen of a state. Some states actually have legal mechanisms in place in the process to become a citizen of that state. Now, that has to fall in line with federal law, and that's all constitutionally driven. We do have a provision in the U.S. Constitution that says, if you're a citizen of a given state, then you have dual citizenship as a U.S. citizen. But that doesn't mean that there's not laws, because there are, given to Congress to govern such statuses like citizenship. And those powers are given under the Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18, where we find the necessary and proper clause to make those types of establishments. And so, we're kind of threading the eye of the needle here with that conversation. In a particular state like California would have to be very careful in doing so, because, let's just be honest here. If illegal immigrants were allowed to vote in a given state, then it violates multiple provisions in the U.S. Constitution. There are several amendments that deal with voting, and the language used in that Constitution only pertains to citizens of the United States. There are no constitutional arguments that support an illegal immigrant being able to vote, whether they're a citizen or not.
Well, then that brings up another question, because I just voted here in Missouri, and in Missouri on the ballot, one of the things on the ballot was to not allow illegal residents or illegal immigrants to vote. So why would that have been on the ballot if they're allowed to vote already?
Sure. And we ran a very similar bill. I was a co-author on this bill and actually signed it. I got a really cool story about this, but we ran a bill this year. It was a state question. We voted on it a couple of days ago now, that changed the language in our Oklahoma state constitution to ensure that only citizens of the United States are able to vote in our elections here in Oklahoma. And of course, you have to be an Oklahoma citizen or resident as well. And you provide proof of residency in Oklahoma when you register to vote. So now, constitutionally, our voter registration process is going to have to ensure that these folks that are registering to vote are actually U.S. citizens.
It was changing the language of the Constitution.
Right. The way our
that makes sense.
Read before, yeah, and I haven't read the Missouri language. It was probably pretty similar to what we did. The previous language in our state constitution said that all U.S. citizens have the right to vote in the state of Oklahoma, and we changed that word "all" to "only." And I know it sounds crazy, but very exclusive here with who has voting rights. And what that does is it prevents other states from determining who it is that would be able to vote in our elections. It's a really weird way to get there, but it was possible. So we excluded that possibility by changing the word "all" to "only."
Jay, I have a question. When it comes to changing the verbiage within a constitution for a state's constitution, can a state change the verbiage within the constitution of its state that differs from the language that's in the U.S. Constitution, as long as it does not violate? Like, how does that process work? The U.S. Constitution have to have a change before the state? I don't know if I'm asking that the right way.
No, I understand the question. Let me start by saying this. What you're going to find in a given state constitution should be different in a lot of ways than what we find in the U.S. Constitution, only because the U.S. Constitution itself is really a compact between the states. Now, sometimes what we'll see in state constitutions are some of the same provisions, like Article 2, Section 2 in our state constitution says all persons have the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the enjoyment of the gains of their own industry. Well, we don't find that language anywhere in the U.S. Constitution. It's completely different. But then if you go to another section in our state constitution, it'll say all persons have the right to carry a firearm in defense of their person, their property, their possessions, and to come to the aid of law enforcement when legally summoned. Well, that's very similar to what we see in the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So we may find some of the same type of language, but hopefully what we see in the states is language that better defines what those secured rights look like. Most states, and to answer the other part of the question here, most states in their state constitution recognize that the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Now, we find that in Article 6, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution. That's what we call the Supremacy Clause. Now, the Supremacy Clause itself only declares, and we have to remember who it was that declared this. It was the states that declared through the Constitution that the Constitution itself and the federal laws that are made in pursuance of it, in other words, the laws that are made consistent with the powers that were given to Congress in Article 1, Section 8, that those are supreme law of the land. And a state constitution cannot be what we say repugnant to those laws or constitutional provisions. Otherwise, we would be in violation of our compact as a given state.
As a state, right? So the actual constitution, the federal constitution, if you want to call it that, supersedes all others.
That's right. And here again, we have to remember that it is the states that are entering into that agreement with each other. The Constitution is not an agreement between the states and the federal government. The Constitution is an agreement amongst the several states. And it's really key for our listeners to understand here. The reason that that's the case is because the federal government is a product of the Constitution. They didn't exist until it was ratified, so they cannot be a party to the Constitution. They can't be a party to the compact.
I got it. That's very interesting.
Right. Which explains why Congress itself does not have the power to change the Constitution. They can propose amendments, but guess who has to ratify those amendments for them to become effective?
I would imagine it's the states, and don't the states have to get the vote of the people to do that?
No, it's actually up to the state legislatures.
Oh.
Now, there's a couple of different ways for amendments to happen, and we won't dive off into the weeds this time. But in Article 5 of our Constitution is where we'll find the ways for the people to change their Constitution. But every amendment that's been made to the Constitution since inception has been ratified by the state legislatures, which makes them the most powerful entity in our entire system of government.
Yeah, no shit. That's right.
So we spend a lot of time focusing on who it is that we want to spend to DC. And I spend a lot of time here at home cautioning people about who they send in Oklahoma down to 23rd and Lincoln, which is where our Capitol building is. We need to be very careful about that. Because they play a direct effect on our daily lives.
So we know what Trump's going to do, his to-do list. We know it's going to be the economy. It's going to be the border, immigration, overseas, Israel, Ukraine, Kim Jong-un, of course, with North Korea. So he's got to pick his cabinet too, which is a huge ordeal. What do you think his opponents are going to be doing? Anybody's question.
Oh man. Well, I was listening to the radio today. I listen to a lot of talk radio as well. And there are a lot of different places that have called for not quite ceasefires, but hey, let's rethink our strategy. For instance, Iran came out and said that they were going to looking at a slowdown of any hostilities. And it's all kind of happening within the premise of Trump winning, because he basically, he's promised a lot of people, if you do this, this is what I'm going to do, and so you best not do it. And I think that this term, personally, I think that he, given the opportunity, is going to do those things. I think his first priority, though, is what he does best, which is the business side of the house, and get the budget, get the and the spending part under control, and then probably start looking at, hey, I'm back. If you F around, you will find out. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Buddy, you're silent. You're quiet. I know you want to say something.
I think Trump is he's already starting to put together his team. I think he learned a lot of lessons last time, and I honestly think that there's going to be no hold bars. I mean, he has nothing to lose. This is his only presidency, and his last one, I guess. Is what I need to say. And I think he's gonna go in bold and clean house, and he's gonna use the lessons learned from the last election or his last term, and not let those things happen again, or try not to. I mean,
yeah, he's got 4 years. He doesn't have to campaign the last 2 years of it. He's got all 4 years to do what he needs to do.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see this thing evolve. There's people going out there now, like Jerome Powell said he won't. If he's asked to step down, he won't resign. Just there's already defiance out there. The people, the military-industrial complex, the rhinos, the swamp, those people are starting to dig in their heels, and they've already war gamed this. They're not stupid people, or they wouldn't be where they're at. So, in my opinion, they're going to go out there, and it's going to be a battle and a fight. Street fight basically is what it's going to be. We'll see who comes up on top.
You think you put North Korea back in their place?
I think he's got a better shot at it.
Well, I mean, I heard that they're fighting for Russia now. That's something I heard. I don't know if that's true.
I think I saw some things. I've followed it. You don't know what to with the fake media out there, especially coming out of Russia or the Ukraine. You can't believe any of it. But the troops are there in Russia. What are they doing? I don't know. In my opinion, we have our troops in Ukraine too, and they've been there a long time. So I can't back it up with anything. Which I can.
You're saying U.S. troops?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That we're not at war with Russia. How's that possible?
We're in a proxy war with Russia.
I was about to sneeze the word. You beat me by a few seconds.
Yeah, there's definitely a proxy war there. It's not, we're not facing them in the Fulda Gap, Germany or in Europe at the Cold War days, but there is definitely Cold War Part 2 or 2.0 going on right now. And
I'm sorry, but I heard from our vice president that there are no U.S. troops in any war zones during her. I heard it. I heard it myself. It was in my ears. I heard it.
I think the best video that was put out in all of 2024 is when you had troops that were deployed in Syria were watching her say that, and they're like, "Well, where the hell are we?"
It's too funny, man.
Well, now they're all unburdened by what was going to be.
Oh man, I've been waiting 4 years, 4 years for the quality choice cut memes that have been coming out the past 24 to 48 hours. Oh my gosh.
Well, I want to put something together for the New Year's Eve podcast, like a sound, like a whole entire, montage type of thing, and with music and everything. So if you guys got stuff, send it to me, because I definitely want to put it in there. I want to talk about all the yellow school buses and the burden by what has been and not have been, and exactly. I'm gonna do all that.
Venn diagrams.
I heard something on the radio
diagrams,
today that one of the reasons, and this is pure speculation, maybe not, I don't know, that one of the reasons that Kamala did not come out to address her, supporters out there was that she was way in the tank drunk.
Drunk. Okay. I didn't hear it, but I was going to say that's got to be what he's getting to. Drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just speculation, though?
I mean, of course, it's all speculation, but.
No, I'm asking, did it come from her camp?
No, it came from a conservative radio talk show that I listened to during the day.
Right.
So, yeah.
What did Alex say? Alex Jones, what did he say?
Alex Jones, is he still a thing?
I think he is. I don't know. I've seen him. I don't know. I don't listen to him, but we'll see.
I think Alex Jones has probably probably has more legitimate information stored away somewhere, that to the point where when he walks anywhere outside of his house, he has to peek first. Like, but with the way he like the way he puts stuff out and the way he actually presents himself, it discredits the information that he's trying to express. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Alex Jones and InfoWars for me was entertainment. I was a full-on listener, and I'm gonna tell you right now, he fueled my desire to become a better prepper survivalist. I had already gone down the rabbit hole, but when I found him, he fueled it. So I'm gonna put him as a plus. Yeah, I'm not saying he made me the man I am. I'm not saying that, but he definitely pushed me to be, a better prepper survivalist. That's for sure.
Yeah, the way that he goes about doing the things that he does, it is entertainment for me. But I'm willing to bet that somewhere, somehow, there's a lot of truth to the stuff that he talks about.
Oh, he probably has a dead man's trigger. Isn't that what they call it?
I don't know, but it almost reminds me of a more entertaining thing to watch. When you remember when you used to listen to George Norrie at like midnight and on the radio, and he would start talking about all the different aliens and all these different conspiracies. I used to love listening to that. I'd take that, add about 150 to 200 more pounds onto them, and that's what you get when you're watching InfoWars.
Is it like coast to coast radio?
Yes, coast to coast. Yeah, I love listening to that. Some of the people that call in, I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, man. Not only does this person get to vote, but they also reproduce. That's what we got going on this show.
Well, we need to have a live. We need to have a live show where we all put on our tinfoil hats and give our best tinfoil hat theories.
Oh man, I'm down. I am absolutely down. Mine's gonna have horns though.
Okay. Mine's just pointed at the top because I get inspiration by lightning.
Jay will have to sit that one out. He's not going to want to lose his spot there in the government.
he pulls. Well, he tells me a lot that I need my tinfoil hat on, so I can get wild with him. So
he trusts you.
Do what?
He trusts you with all that information.
He entertains. I think he just entertains it, so it doesn't hurt my feelings.
Jay, I do have one last question for you, and it's just out of a curiosity. At the level that you work at, when we were talking about read-ons earlier, what level of clearance are you required, if you can disclose that? And do you get read onto programs at all?
No, we don't. We actually don't have any type of mechanism for that within the state legislature, but we're also not dealing with any kind of classified information. Now, the governor is probably a different deal. Him, being the commander in chief of the National Guard, there's probably a lot of things that he gets read in on. But the state of Oklahoma doesn't interact with our National Guard like our federal delegates interact with our active duty counterparts. So there's no clearance level, but there's also no classified or even sensitive information that's shared with legislators.
Okay.
So you can't tell us anything. You can't tell us anything about Bigfoot or any aliens that may have landed in Oklahoma.
No comment.
No comment. Okay. See, he knows. He knows.
It has to do something about the dinosaurs. I heard dinosaurs were big time in Oklahoma.
Tremendously huge. I've seen a lot of big dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
Very bigly.
We have. Isn't there a state law that it's legal to hunt Bigfoot?
Illegal. Illegal.
No. We have a representative from South Central Oklahoma. He's a great guy. Representative J.J. Humphrey ran a bill a few years ago that would have set up a licensing for hunting Bigfoot. And the thing is, and I think, buddy, you'll have an appreciation for this, the Bigfoot phenomenon is really huge in South Central Oklahoma. I mean, it is.
Oh, yeah. It is.
So him running this legislation almost landed. It was either a $2 or $5 million project by I believe it was the Discovery Channel or something like that, somebody like that. But there were some outside entities that were really interested in coming in and putting together a show, which was going to be an economic booster for his district. So it was great marketing just through the introduction of that bill. And it didn't go anywhere. At the time, the leaders over at our wildlife department were not big fans of that bill. And I remember talking to them about it, and I said, listen, the chances of someone actually finding and shooting Bigfoot or even capturing him, I mean, stipulate how the take looks, but it's going to be pretty slim. So put an annual bag limit out there like 5. And then sell them, right?
That's awesome.
5 Bigfoots can be taken. I said, but then sell the licenses for $10 a piece, and the license needs to be in the form of a decal. Yeah. And I said the reason that could be a big deal is I'm a Jeep owner. I'm going to put that decal on my back window.
Absolutely, they'll make millions off of that.
They'd make millions off of it. And I'd sell resident licenses. I'd sell non-resident licenses. Pick your poison here. People would pay $10 for the doggone decal just to put on their vehicle or their gun case or whatever. It would have been a really cool deal, but. Anyway, that agency, our Oklahoma Wildlife Department agency, used to fund themselves through licenses, and last year that had to change because they weren't very creative, and now they're state funded. But anyway,
well, just so you know, there was a huge belief in the cryptozoology world that it is illegal to hunt Bigfoot. It's that Oklahoma is the only state where it's illegal to hunt Bigfoot unless you have a license. That's a thing. It's an actual thing. So people believe it.
Yeah, we don't actually have a license to hunt Bigfoot. We tried to get one, but we don't have one yet.
I just became a lobbyist. So
you did?
Yes, I'm going to lobby for this.
Oh, okay.
The Bigfoot hunting.
Yeah, buddy, I got some people down at the Capitol I can get you connected with to work that issue.
I know a few guys too. We'll compare notes later. Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know if you guys ever heard of, I know some of you, buddy, you have the guy called The Howler that comes on that one show. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Howler in Missouri.
Oh,
you know The Howler. And he's funny as hell. And he said, because he doesn't believe in any of that stuff, but he's on a show of people that talk about Bigfoots. And he said, look, man, he's like, I'm not going to believe, because he goes, my people would have done hunt it, captured it, and ate it by now.
I think he was a state trooper too. So.
Oh yeah. He's a smart guy. Well, guys, we're going to have to cut this off because we're going way, way long. Is there anything else you want to say? I think we gave the listeners a lot of information. Is there anything you guys want to say that what we can look forward to over the next couple of months before Mr. Trump takes the office?
Keep your magazines loaded, keep your powder dry, keep your hatchet scoured.
I'm going to go with, have a fresh, have popcorn and beer on hand because it's going to get spicy. I think we're all going to be able to have a good time with this.
So no worries. Jay?
Yeah. So I took a team out to Eastern Tennessee to do hurricane relief efforts. We did 2 weeks worth of work out there with a week in the middle here over the last month. And we all talk about things that we would absolutely have in our kit no matter what. And my takeaway from that incident was there's 2 things I will never, ever not have, ever. And the first is a generator. And then the second is a programmable radio. And the reason for that is we specifically saw those 2 items save people's lives in that situation. So we'll be teaching some classes on radio operations. I'm sure we've mentioned that before, but we'll send you that information over, and we'd love to have a discussion with you guys sometime about communications and what that looks like and why that's necessary, especially given the lessons learned out in the eastern part of the country.
Yeah, I'm definitely counting the days. That's going to be great for that. Hey, those classes that you're putting on for the communications or you're going to or planning on, is this something you can do online, or do you have to be in person?
We've historically done those in person, but I was talking with Buddy about this earlier because he was asking the same question, and we're going to be putting some online options out there for our folks. And of course, this is done through my shop here in Yukon called Cloverleaf Precision. And you can find us online at cloverleafprecision.com or look for us on Facebook. We'll be posting those classes out there in both places. I'll provide you with the link so you can upload that if you desire. But those are really good classes. And some of our prior students asked us after we got back, how did things go? And of course, we ultimately talked about communications. And I told these previous students, I said, if y'all had rolled out of our first two classes like you've taken and gone straight into this deployment with us, you would have known more about operating your radio than everybody that we were on site with.
Wow.
Very, very valuable class. They're not very expensive at all. And our radio one-on-one course comes with a programmable radio. So we're going to set folks up, show them how to use it. And should the need arise, they'll be equipped with the tools and the knowledge to be able to communicate with others.
It's outstanding. All right. Well, thanks, Jay. Appreciate you coming on with us and shooting the shit. Guys, that's going to be it. Let's lock it down.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care.
See ya.
My prepper brothers and sisters, our loud collective voices have been heard, and the power of the vote is proof that America is done with the BS, the woke, the embarrassment, and we can finally put this whole thing behind us once and for all and make America great again. Stay prepped, stay happy. Thanks for listening, and good night.